Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Broken Road podcast. I'm your host, Trent Peterson. Today's episode is going to be a little different. It's a personal one for me. I'm sitting down with two guys who walked through something very similar to me and what I've been through, stroke recovery, and trying to make sense of all of it through faith. And I'll be honest, this conversation goes to some real places. We talk about the question that everyone asks at some point, why me? There's anger, there's confusion, there's moments where your faith gets tested in ways you never expected, and we don't hold back on any of that. But what I love on this conversation is that it's real. It's not cleaned up, it's not perfect. It's just three guys trying to figure out what God has in store for them and find their faith in the middle of it. I've got Shayne DeMarce of the Upstroke podcast and former Olympian athlete Oral Ogilvy, both stroke survivors, both men of faith, and both guys who have powerful stories of what God has done in their lives. So wherever you are today, if you're struggling, if you're questioning, or if you're just in need of hope, this conversation is for you. This is part one.
Heading all down the broken road. I call on you to help me carry the load. Oh Lord, you never let me down.
Thank you for joining us today. Anything you hear in this podcast is not to be taken for medical advice. This podcast is for information purposes only, and should you find something interesting in the information spoken about, please consult your physician further.
Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to visit about you with my brothers here. Thank you for the opportunity and the breath in our lungs to do this. Please guide us and let your spirit guide us so that we may go over the things and say things in a way that will reach other people that need to hear it and those in their darkest days. Thank you again for this. Thank you for this day. Thank you so much. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Trent.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
All right, Shayne, get us going.
All right. So I think that, I guess it's always strange times, but these are very different times for the world right now. And a lot of people going through trauma and tragedy with the war and things of that nature. And we always wonder, what's God's role in some of these traumatic events? So I thought that would be a good place to start off. Number one, do we ever ask, why me? This is the first one to that. I know I sure did. Well, I kind of suspected. For myself, I looked at it as it was correction or punishment, right, for the way I was living. So I was a little pissed off at God when it first happened, to be honest. I just couldn't believe it. This was, as with most men, right? Our physicality is just who we are, especially being an athlete. So, first one, yeah, why me? Did you guys ever question that?
I don't know if I even had time to think of why me really at one point. It seemed like it happened so fast. And then, I guess if I was being completely honest, yes, I probably did have that moment. I think back to whenever I was laying in the hospital bed. So I guess I should say, I had my stroke in May 25th, 2024, brainstem stroke that laid me out. I did have a moment there where I just wanted to roll over and kind of not be alive anymore. I could not figure out why that did happen to me. That's a good question. Yeah, I did have that moment.
I think all three of us are within 30 to 40 days of our strokes, hey?
Yeah, like 45 days. I was May 8th, 2024, and you were June 22nd, 2024, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So we're all within that time window there. Very
Kinda
interesting
crazy.
how God kind of brought us together. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For me, the why me, I probably had that question more later than early. I was clueless when I was having the stroke. I was on the golf course, you guys know, and I actually was arguing with the guy who was telling me I was having a stroke. And I'm very thankful for Luke. He saved my life because I had no clue. I felt euphoric, if anything, and I couldn't tell anything was going wrong. And so I didn't really have the time to ask kind of why me. And then my mind was just so full of just whatever the chemicals going on that I wasn't fully present to it. When I got to the hospital and told me I had a stroke, and I still had a little bit of movement in my hand at that time. So I was just trying to exercise right away. I was just trying to move things and keep things going, and just kind of, okay, I'm going to keep this guy going. I'm not going to lose everything. And that was kind of my mindset. And I told you, Shayne, I'm not sure if I told you, Trent, but he gave me a Bible verse right away. Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me, all you burden heavy laden, I'll give you rest. My yoke is easy, my burdens are light. I'm gentle and humble in heart. Right? Anyhow, that came to me really early in this whole thing. And it kind of gave me the perspective that I never was kind of thinking, well, why me anymore? I just kind of said, I just accepted it. I just had peace, guys. And for me, that's been the biggest miracle of this entire stroke thing. The healing part, getting stuff back is great and it's fantastic. But the peace that Jesus gave me from day one that allowed me to laugh and joke and do some different things early on and approach this with the attitude, okay, I'm in this bad situation, but what do I need to do to help myself get better? And that's been my attitude in the last 2 years. And it's been just getting up each day and just trying to do it. And some days are definitely a lot harder than others, and definitely learning patience in this season like I've never learned before in terms of just, the healing and everything else. That why me hasn't really come up too much to me. And if anything, it's almost like why not me? Because I talk about this, and it's given me a platform to really talk about God's goodness in a way that people wouldn't expect to hear from someone who's gone through a life-altering situation like this. It's given me a platform, an opportunity to talk about God's goodness in this in a way that I'd never have before. So why not me?
Right.
I was just going to bring that up, Oral. I remember, I think it was the first time you and I had met in person, and we were getting pretty deep and pretty personal. And I was struggling with that. And you just looked at me and said, why not you?
Yeah.
Did I say that, brother?
Yeah. I was like, well, I can give you 3 or 4 good reasons.
It's not going to sugarcoat that or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty bold for a big guy like you too, and your arms are moving better than mine. That's
I got a left hook now. Yeah.
it's like he's a big boy. But
So
brother, you
yeah,
obviously received that from me.
I did.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And it
That was a
stuck.
great connection. Now, sitting in your backyard that day, brother,
Yeah.
I felt like an instant kindred spirit with you.
Yeah.
Like I just
Likewise.
instant connection. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I love this guy. I don't even know this guy, but I
Yeah.
love this guy. And I see the love of God in your heart. I saw that from day one. And
Yeah.
that
Nice.
was pretty incredible. Yeah.
How
So
awesome is
then,
that you can actually see that,
so
in
cool,
somebody
eh? Yeah.
so right off the bat.
It is noticeable, isn't it, Trent?
It is.
Like you
100%.
can see and you get the sense that someone has a spiritualness to them, right?
Right.
And it doesn't usually take very long to be able to recognize that.
100%.
Yeah. So people that are having strokes today that are asking themselves, why me? And kind of battling with God's role in it, what advice would we give them?
It's going to be a question that comes across everybody's mind at one point or another. And, I personally don't believe that God did this to me. I do believe that he allowed this to happen. And, it says many times in the scripture about this world of sin that we live in and that we will suffer. And, life isn't going to be just this smooth trail for somebody that has something bigger planned for them, and I used to think that had all this planned out. This is me, 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 and that I was going to do this and I would do that. And even when I talked about things it was very self-centered and selfish way of living. I feel like he allowed this to happen. So the same thing that Orla just said, to give a platform for his greatness and to be able to show people the love that I feel in my heart and share it in a way that I never could before.
That's cool, brother. Yeah, I agree with you, Trent. I don't think that God made this happen to me. Kind of like Job, he didn't do the stuff to Job. He allowed the tempter to do that stuff to Job, but he didn't do it to Job directly himself. And I think God knew I was going to have a stroke. I think he knew I was going to have a stroke on May 8th, 2024. And in so many ways, I feel like he prepared me for that. The balance of my life, being an athlete and knowing my body, both sides of my body really well, golfing with Luke that day, golfing with a guy who saw his grandfather the year before have a stroke, not going to pick up my car and driving that car home that night. I look at all the things that he did in that day to protect me and preserve my life. I look at that and I see, okay, he's protected me and he's preserved my life. So then he has a purpose here for me. He has a purpose for me in this season of stroke. And then he gave me peace, like day one. And when he gave me that peace, it allowed me to say, what do I need to do to get healthy? And that's been my attitude. And, Shayne, you can talk with the folks there at the Glen Rose. You can ask anybody at the Glen Rose when I was there how I was as a patient and how I was as a person. And they'll tell you I was consistently happy, consistently positive, consistently just going for it, man. And the only reason I could do that is because I had his peace. That's the only reason I could do it. Because me normally being a control freak and a type A athlete, I'd have been freaking the heck out. Seriously. And he allowed me not to freak out. And I'm so grateful for that, that's why I don't ask the question, why me? And do I believe that God made this happen? I believe he knew it was going to happen, but I really honestly believe he prepared me for it. And that gives me so much peace and love and trust for him in that. It was amazing, guys. Like this experience, for a bad experience, it's been an amazing experience as well. It's been an amazing experience. Just the gratitude I have for life and for simple things in life, the love I feel from my family and friends, and getting to connect with, some great human beings like yourselves, and so many people I've met in stroke recovery. My life is richer and fuller because I had a stroke, not because, my life isn't diminished because I had a stroke. My life is actually richer and fuller. Like, the more important things in this life are richer and fuller because I had a stroke. And I believe that. And I thank God for that.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Yeah. The next question that comes right after that is, do you believe your stroke had a purpose? So yeah, good segue there, buddy.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Trent, did yours?
It absolutely, it did. It took a little bit to find that. I really was the same as Laurel when it come to the process of recovery and in the rehab situation. I was very motivated to get back the things that I had lost. Also was so happy to be alive and that I did have some movement. I ever since then, and it's been a constant theme for me now with the nonprofit, is that I want to spend the rest of my life helping others because I was so fortunate to gain so much and have so little in deficits, and I visit with people daily. So I want them to have hope and I want them to feel the same things I do. But that didn't come until, I had purpose in recovery, but really my purpose came a couple months later when I was at home walking and was given just a very solid, this is where you're going, Trent, and this is what you're going to do, and you're going to kingdom build for the rest of your life, and what the things that you thought you were building for your family, that's not coming back. I need you to do this for me, and I am very honored, and the gratitude, I think what Oral said about that as well, is just overwhelming. My heart's full. It is so full. So there's a lot of purpose, and I can't really see myself doing anything other than what I do right now ever again. And I've tried, and God slapped me on the hand. What I feel like slapped me on the hands a couple times, trying to go my own route and do things that I want to do, or I think I want to do, and it's just that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to have some kind of open line of communication to realize that, don't you?
Yeah, daily.
And for myself, I was just, my wife and I were just doing this. She was diagnosed with cancer, and it was just one blow after another. And I just wasn't around. I just took off on my motorcycle, started riding with a group of guys that my wife and family really didn't approve of a whole lot. And then when I was in the hospital, they came to visit once, and one of the guys was wearing a jersey with big, huge numbers, 666 on his jersey. And my
Wow.
daughter looked at me like, what are you doing? And yeah, it was just kind of one of those breaking points in that even after my stroke, I was still heading down that path. And it was very dark and very grim. So yeah, lots of realizations and trying to open my heart up to let room for God to come in and speak to me.
Do
And he
you
did.
feel like when you were going through that, Shayne, that it was a power grab, so to speak, to have some control over your life that you felt like you didn't have? And I know that may be a little bit personal for this conversation, but it's what was put on my heart as you were saying that, because I did a lot of things myself that pulled me away from my family that gave me this sense of, freedom, and kind of fulfilled some things that I was searching for that really it didn't fill the void, but there was a void there I was trying to fill with things that weren't good for me.
Yeah, I think partly that, but it was also just male insecurity as well, right?
Right.
I was feeling very vulnerable. We were looking at the possibility of losing my wife, which I just had no idea how to process. And I was very angry at God at that point in my life. We were losing our business in slow motion, so it was very painful. And I was very pissed off with the Canadian government, like very, very angry. And just the way that COVID was handled, the trucker convoy, all of these things. So I was looking for that sense of brotherhood that motorcycle clubs promote and offer, right? It's kind of the big carrot they dangle for men on motorcycles. Yeah. And I was really hungry for something like that type of environment where I could rely on other people and other men, manly men, right? And I've always been very rebellious my whole life. My poor parents. It's just
Yeah.
I was born in sin and I still am. And yeah, I resent leadership and authority. And yeah, I think I've mentioned in my podcast a couple times I've been kicked out of almost every school I've been put in. And so, you know what, there that side of it, I kind of bonded with these guys that were all a bunch of badasses as well, right? The irony of it, though, is that you end up turning further away from God if you surround yourself with people like that. And you do
Absolutely.
become, surround yourself with people you want to be like. There's an old sales business saying for that. And it's, if you surround yourself with people you don't want to be like, you will assimilate as well. So you have to be very careful on what and who you surround yourself with. So that was definitely the lowest point in my life, going through all of that and then realizing this motorcycle accident had now caused a stroke and I'm now crippled. And yeah, I wasn't going to stick around. And my family knew I wasn't going to stick around. And then the hospital realized I wasn't going to stick around. So they got me on meds. Fortunately, it was pretty hard to take yourself out if you can't get out of bed. But you lose the will to live, right? And that's a big one. Yeah, that's pretty heavy stuff.
What
Yeah.
about the irony of, while we're still there on it, there's also irony in the fact that you were searching out, and so was I, searching out strong men as a group to do it. And now I would say that I'm surrounded by more strong people in this community than I ever have in my whole life. Because, as a survivor, you have to want to survive. It's not like you wake up every day and it's going to be an easy day. You do have to make a conscious decision every day as a survivor that you are going to do what it takes to survive. And I think having faith for me and for most is the most beneficial thing for survivor, is to have that faith and know that God's going to carry you through this. Without that, without hope, it's a tough road.
Very tough road.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, that is very ironic. And yeah, but it's a different type of strength, right? It's a pure strength right from the soul, right? Not just big and tough and macho. Yeah, and I don't know why I didn't turn to, well, I guess I do. Christianity, I've always had issues with it. I've grown up in the church. My parents were missionaries in Mexico. So from 8 years old, I've been surrounded by Christianity. And just that rebellious spirit of mine, I just saw all the false prophets within Christianity, and they repulsed me, right? That was the time of, I don't know if you remember Jim and Tammy Faye Baker.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're still surrounded by these people. The president's pastor, like, what a nutcase. Like, it's just, those types of people just really turn me away from Christianity and Christ. And I struggled with,
Puts a bad taste in everybody's mouth. I don't think you're alone on that.
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, the extremists, the nutcases. And then there was, okay, so if you're going to go to church, like, what church are you going to go to? I just started looking up not too long ago, how many Christian denominations there are. Have you ever done this? Upwards of 50,000 denominations. And I think the one thing they all have in common is they all think they're right. So you can see very easily why this topic gets pushed aside and is avoided, right? It leads to arguments.
Yeah. Well, it can, brother, but it also,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to. I'm seeing, more of a move, especially for, I think, people who are honestly searching for God in this day and age, realizing that, yeah, it might be denominational differences, might be, some theological differences, but what we have in common is far greater and stronger than what we have that may be separating us denominationally. I just did a study in our, sorry for jumping in there, Shayne.
No, go, Ben.
Yeah. I did a study on this whole rapture thing, and my men's group was pre-trib rapture guys. My small group of Bible study was no rapture people.
Oh,
There's no
yeah.
rapture happening. So it
Yeah.
was like, whoa, this could be argumentative and whatever else, but not at all, brother.
Oh,
Like, not at
nice.
all. Like, zip, zero zips, no argument needed, because it's not Christ and salvation issues. It's some theological issues that people might be following and whatever else, but no reason for us to argue at all, you
Yeah.
know? And really, and you guys are probably can attest to this, the pull in the field I'm getting right now is, man, as Christ followers, it's really incumbent on us to let God shine through us as brightly as possible right now in this day and age, because it is so bad out there and it's just getting worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Trent, what are your thoughts on that?
Religion and theology, two words that really, in my mind, in my heart, take away from Christianity and as a whole. They cause there's a lot of contention in there and back and forth things that can happen when you start talking about exactly how to understand what you're reading when you're reading the Bible, and that's really what it boils down to. To me, I personally feel like it's a personal relationship. It is my God, and I am when I'm praying, we are visiting together, and I don't. I think that people get wrapped up in the small things, and I'm not going to go there with that. I mean, I know how I feel in my heart. It's not worth the argument, and I don't think that's what God intended whenever he was here and he sent his son to die for us. Now I realize that spiritually, you're right. I mean, it's a great question because it is, here where I'm at, as far as if we're talking about Christianity, I mean, there's a lot of different religions, and that's why I step away from that. But in Christianity, you got, do you sprinkle or do you dunk? All of these different things. And I was talking to my dad the other day. I'm fortunate to still have him. He's a very strong Christian man. And, he said that's why so many churches have split. It's because you just can't, people get so wrapped up in that, everybody has to view that exactly the same. Well, if
Yeah.
you don't, then we can't have fellowship. And that just, I don't want
Right.
to do that. I
Yeah.
want
It's
to have
not true.
fellowship with everybody.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
true at all, brother. That's not true at all. And that definitely is not Christ's intention. And I really don't believe, like, the church is split and stuff like that, but that's the enemy coming in and sowing the seeds of discontent and disharmony and disunity in those situations, right? And and that's definitely not what Christ is calling us to at all. Whether you sprinkle or you dunk or whatever else and stuff like that. At the end of the day, it's not a salvation issue. It's not a Christ,
Right.
coming, Christ being God, coming to earth, dying for us, suffering and dying for us, and then being raised again from the dead and offering salvation to the entire world. That's the crux of the matter. And not Christ being one of many gods, but Christ being, one of the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, only God, right?
Right.
That's the crux of the matter, for me, and that, it's not, um, you know, uh, an offshoot of Christianity, but actually true Christianity. The other stuff is not, for me, as critically as important. And I'm learning to let go of that, especially as I get older now. Maybe when I was younger, a bit more willing to fight. But as I'm getting older and realizing that, there's maybe a lot more gray out there than there is black and white. I'm definitely more open to, I guess, hear and receive, but also more less prone to fight, man. And that's one of the things he's taken away from me with the stroke, as well as this idea that I can fight because I can't
Right.
anymore.
Yeah. 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 A 9-year-old girl can kick our asses.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So yeah, so that was the first question. So why did this happen? And then we had 3 bullet points under that. The last one under that is, so do you think God caused your stroke, allowed it, or simply walked with you through it?
I can start there. I know for sure that he walked me through it. I mean, there's just no doubt. And again, back to we did talk about that a little bit, but I don't feel like he caused it. I feel like it was allowed, and I feel like I agree with Oral on that he knew it was coming. That also was very prepared. One thing that was actually just a godsend and nothing short of a miracle. First of all, brainstem strokes are,
Mm,
so to speak, the widowmaker of strokes. Uh, and for me to be able to be here today and have this conversation is huge. I lost swallow. I lost all these things. I had diplopia, um,
What's that,
but
Trent?
double vision. So
Oh, okay.
not only did I see two, this side of my pupil was actually twisted. So everything
Hmm.
that I saw on one side was actually sitting sideways also.
Hmm.
Lord.
So I was in pretty bad shape. It's still I still have some nystagmus, which is shakiness in my left eye when I look really hard, and it's kind of nauseating to do fast motion stuff. So it slowed me down, and I think that's something to talk about as well. But uh, back to what I was trying to say, uh, I'm ambidextrous, so they felt like that was a big part of my recovery process is that I was already using both sides of my brain. So even though that brainstem stroke affected both sides, and I actually have deficits on both sides of my body because I was used to using both sides of my body and both sides of my brain, it allowed me to recover a little bit better. So I feel like he was preparing me for that as well, and walked beside me as well through my recovery, and still now every single day.
Hmm. For me, I was just thinking, like, man, I cover the gamut on this. Originally, God definitely caused it. Yeah, this was punishment for my decisions in life. And then afterwards, I started getting down and beat up emotionally about it. So that's when he allowed it. And then probably right around the time, about 6 months after I was still in the facility, I allowed him to walk through it with me. Yeah. I remember my mom telling me that in the beginning, so many things had happened. And my mom's very spiritual. She's a very wonderful, strong Christian woman. And I was kind of fading in and out of consciousness in the very beginning. And she told me, I'm going to see darkness and I'm going to see light. Go towards the light.
Hmm.
And I just went to the most evil, darkest place that one could possibly imagine. I started writing it out and I put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT wouldn't even type it out for me.
Nope,
Yeah.
not touching that.
No, it was horrendous. So yeah, I literally saw hell and just the atrocities that were going on, and I just
Mm.
couldn't get away from it fast enough. And it seemed like as soon as I would start coming out of that, they would hit me with some more heavy drugs and put me right back there. And I just couldn't get out. So once I did get out, I told them, like, I just don't want any more of these drugs. And things started getting better. So for me, I kind of ran the full gamut on it. And then, yeah, after the 6-month point, it's like, I know I need Christ in my life. And life has been much better since then.
Amen, brother.
And not putting a label on it, right? Because I think, to your point earlier, Arl, that's where we start fighting and about the minutiae differences about the different versions of Christianity. Number one, I think it needs to be Christ-centered, right? And both, well, the world, not just both our countries, Trent's in the U.S., Oral and I are in Canada, are dealing with, all the dynamics of this little country in the Middle East that uses, in my opinion, our religion and our faith to kind of twist things a bit. And it's becoming very obvious and very political and very poisonous. And I think we can't put any country or belief or denomination before Christ. Like at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is Jesus Christ coming to earth, becoming a human man, and then willingly dying for us, and then we're being risen again. Yeah, which gives
Tremendous
us that
suffering.
pathway and the key to eternal life with him. As far as the rapture, I mean, everyone's got different opinions on that thing. Yeah, that's a whole other 6-hour episode.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%, brother. 100%. Sorry, Trent.
No, it's okay. At the end of the same note, we're trying to promote love. There's a lot of things going on. I realize that, especially in this, like you said, the culture we're in now is a me world, and people are in a rush. I just experienced that the other day with my friend. We had a get together, a send off for a therapist that it helped all of us tremendously. So quite a few of us survivors did a send off. One of my buddies was trying to get in, and it took him an hour. He couldn't get a hold of me. I didn't realize he was out there suffering, struggling. I felt pretty bad when I found out. But one of the things he said was, man, the cars couldn't wait for him to get across the street. And then he was struggling. It was all the way uphill to get to where we were at. All the handicap spots were taken by people that weren't handicapped, just one thing after another. And he said, it took a lot for him to get up that hill and get there. People were just zooming past him, and he's like, we were all going to the same place. And he said, I'm a fighter. I wasn't going to give up. And it was one foot in front of the other. And he's got pretty bad drop foot still. It's a workout for him to get places. But it was discouraging to know that people are in such a hurry to see somebody suffering like that, or and trying to get to the same spot. You don't even have time to stop and say, "Hey, can I help you?" So,
Yeah.
I just bring that up because we are in that kind of world, and regardless of the little finite details that may separate us in Christianity and in faith, we should be brought together by love for a fellow man.
100%. Love God and love others, brother. That's the message of the gospel. Once we receive the salvation that comes from Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone, our command is to love God and love others, including our enemies, including everybody. And when you do that, when you live that out, we're living up the gospel, right? The arguments, the disagreements, the 50,000 different denominations don't matter. Don't matter.
Yeah.
Right? At all. And you talk about your friend, get everyone blowing past them. That was the message I was getting before I had my stroke, is slow down, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Slow down, and I'm learning that it's still a process because I still want to move fast. And I've definitely slowed down a lot, but I still want to move fast. And it's a process. He's still working on that part of my heart to kind of get me to that place where I can slow down and see my neighbors in a way that I can love them properly and love him properly. Right. And that's a journey. This stroke, if anything, is humbled me. And, I guess going back to the question, you know, he's journeyed with me through this from day one. You know, did he allow it because he's sovereign? I guess technically he allowed it because he's sovereign and he knows everything. No, he knew it was going to happen to me and he prepared me for it. And that's how I see it. He knew that the sinful world that we're living in was going to cause me to have a blood clot or whatever, for whatever reason. And it's going to cause me to be sick on May 8th, 2024. And man, he's been with me from day one. And he's shown me so much goodness in this time. And a world that I would never have I would not have been open to had I not had this stroke. Has been open to me. And I thank him for that. I thank him for that.
So faith before versus after stroke. So what did your faith look like before? And I know you've had a relationship with Jesus Christ for a very long time.
Yeah, and I've walked a rough road, Shayne. I've told you some of the junk I've been involved with, even as a man of God for many, many years.
Yeah.
That divorce I went through in 2017, that was an oral wrecker.
Yeah.
That was a wrecker. That was the hardest thing, bar none, I've ever been through in my life. And I tried to take my life during that time. That was brutal. That was brutal. And I believe it was brutal because, the image of Christ in the church is marriage. And that's what the enemy really wants to fight against. The pillars of our society is marriage. That is the pillar of our society, is the family unit. And that's what the enemy wants to destroy in our world right now, is our family unit, and by whatever means necessary. And so that divorce, that wrecked me. And I did some stuff there. I was talking with a young man. We just had a men's breakfast here at our church this morning. And I was talking with a young man who's married and everything else. And I was saying, you know what? His name was John. I said, John, you know what? If I wasn't angry and I wasn't full of my ego and full of my pride, and I had just been patient and not angry with my wife, I'd still be married to my wife in my youth. Very likely. She would have come around had I given her time and space, not gone off and done crazy stuff because I was so angry and so humiliated and shamed because someone dumped me at 48 years old and I'd never been dumped before. And I let my ego and my pride and my anger rule me. And that cost me my marriage. Right? And that's the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. This stroke is way easier than that. Honestly, like it's way easier than that because that was something that, but you know what, guys, I think I told you this, Shayne, that was also an idol in my life. That was God in my life. Having that, that two kids, girl and a boy, beautiful wife, beautiful home, beautiful cars, business partner, all that stuff. That was an idol in my life. And the lesson I learned from that after the anger and all that stuff broke it up was that God is not going to have any gods before him. It doesn't matter if it's your wife and your children. He is not having any gods before him. He won't allow that to happen. And as much as I wrecked it, I also believed that he was showing me they were a God in my life. And it was going to take a lot of humility, which I wasn't prepared to give, for me to salvage that. And I was not prepared to give that humility. And that's the thing that that I've learned. So my life before the stroke and in terms of my faith walk, after that divorce in 2017 and going through the crazy stuff I went through in that time, when I got my senses back, I fell into a deep relationship with the Lord as a Christ follower. I've been a Christ follower for the 25 years before that, but I fell into a new and deep relationship with the Lord. And he broke a lot of bondage that was in my life. Like he broke it all after that. When he saved my life on December 3rd, 2017, I tried to take my life. And he saved my life on that day. And he brought me to a place of, I need him in everything. And the 3 years before my stroke, I had been on my knees every morning before him. I had been in a great walk with him, like a fantastic, and I was training every day, like 6 days a week for the 3 years before that stroke as well. So I was in such a great place spiritually that, the stroke, it surprised me. Like I said, I felt like I was drunk that day when I was having the stroke. I was like, oh, I feel good. Luke, I feel good, man. Earl, sit down and shut up. You're having a stroke, buddy. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Mhm.
So the cool thing was, I feel like the stroke didn't have the effect because I was in such a great place spiritually before I had it. And all it did was let me lean in even more to him. And now I'm even in a better place because I just trusted him the entire journey. And yeah, I've had my ups and downs, guys. It hasn't been a linear, nice process. I've definitely had some struggles, but my struggles have been far less than they should have been. And that's because he's been carrying me through this. The path that I'm on, I wouldn't know you two guys. I wouldn't know John, my friend John. I wouldn't know the stroke community. I wouldn't know humility the way I'm learning humility and be willing to accept it the way I'm willing to accept it. I wouldn't know kindness and grace and goodness and gratitude the way I know gratitude now. And I wouldn't trade that for anything, guys. I wouldn't trade my last 2 years experience for anything. It's made me a way better version of myself, and it's drawing me towards a way better version of myself than I could have ever imagined. It opened my eyes to some stuff I would never have imagined that, and I thank God for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Feel so much gratitude to be able to be here and be part of the community.
Mm.
And I think one thing you were saying that it was kind of kept bouncing back and forth there for me in my head was the altars that we build up of things that we feel like are so important in our life. The difference, though, is as a believer, and even though Shayne, you had fallen away, you still had that core belief system, there. So I think it's frustrating, and people that goes back to the why me thing as well. People, you see other people doing these things and doing things that are really they're living a life that's very ugly, but at the same time being very successful in their ways. So they do things and acquire things in ways that we wouldn't feel like are very honorable, and they don't seem to ever get their hand slapped for it. But the difference is I think Oral said it very well. Like, Christ is not going to accept any other idols from a believer, and that's the big difference is being a believer and not, and having that moral value and standard and love for Christ in your life, or even knowledge. Yeah, let me make sure I say that specifically. Even having knowledge of Him. So there's a big difference between. Somebody that's never had that and somebody that has also, I believe, as far as like the things that we're going to go through compared to the average person, which, I think a lot of people would ask, well, why would I even want to go there and do that? If that's a possibility, that it's just going to be harder. But it's so fulfilling. And I just, golly, I hope that this reaches people that need to hear it. It definitely helped me come through on the other side and still does daily in my recovery process, knowing that I'm not alone, even on the worst days.
Yeah. Can I answer that
So,
why a little bit, Trent?
yeah.
The why is there's more to come. This world and this brokenness that we're living in is not how he intended it. And I honestly believe that in all of my heart now. I just, it's almost like I got a little taste of his goodness in a different way. And I'm just looking forward to what he has to come for us, brother. Like seriously, and that's part of, for the joy set before him, Christ endured the cross. For the joy set before him. He didn't suffer needlessly, guys. He knew there was going to be a celebration and a union between God and men again in the right way with peace forevermore. And that's why he suffered the cross, because he knew that we're going to be reconciled to him. Right? And we'd be having a conversation like this today, brother, where we could talk about it and we can say, what, our struggles are not as bad and aren't the worst thing in the world because we have a hope and a faith in him. Anyhow.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That's awesome.
So I know we've kind of going off track a little bit here and there, and that's all good. For those who are dealing with stroke or any disability and this sudden change in their lives, like for us, we're all Christian believers, believing in Jesus Christ, and we know and recognize the strength that it's given us. And it's hard for us to put ourselves in the people's shoes who are not Christ followers. And if we could tell them something that we believe, does it make our recovery better, easier? Like, what does it do for us? What is the difference?
I don't think it's about the stroke. I think it's about life, Shayne. That question is not about stroke. It's about life. And what does Christ do for us when we accept him in life? It's not about just the stroke. We're able to deal with adversity and all that stuff better, but we have new life. That's the difference. When we accept Christ, there's a newness. What is it? 1 Corinthians 5:17, if any man be in Christ, is a new creation, the old things have passed, behold, all things have become new. And that's one of my favorite verses because there's a newness of life.
Can you say that slower, Oral?
Yeah. But let me make sure I got it right. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it's 1 Corinthians 5:17, and I'll read it for you guys if I can just pull it up
Cool.
here. Oh, look at that. I'm in Corinthians right now. That was pretty cool from this morning. Let me
For
read some.
myself, I think, while you look that up, Oral,
Yeah.
I think that it's given me a sense of companionship
Mm,
beyond what humans in my family have been able to give me,
mm,
right?
mm,
The feeling and the sense that I'm going through this with God
100%.
has made it easier for me.
Your creator, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's 2 Corinthians 5:17 had the verses and numbers right, but it's not wrong Corinthians. So this means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone, a new life has begun. Right? So it isn't just about stroke. This is one of the verses I've been an anchor verse for me, especially being a sinful guy like I've been, craziness I've done in this life, that he's given me a newness of life, right? And the ability to deal with the struggles of life. A guy who struggled with depression to the point of wanting to commit suicide in December of 2017. For a guy who's had, all this accolades and whatever else, blah, 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 by recognizing that those things are all empty and that chasing after those things brought no true happiness and fulfillment in this life, but recognizing that um, I was created by a God who actually loves me and actually cares for me intimately and deeply, and that formed me and knew me from the foundations of the earth. That revelation and that knowledge, and that he actually not only does he want to know me, but he actually came and paid a price for the sinful world that we created, that Adam and Eve created. He paid a price for that to bring me back into relationship with him. That is hope, and that he's going to prepare a place for me, and he's coming back again to bring me home. And that this life that we live, that the struggles that we go through in this life and everything else, there's meaning for that, and that he's going to reconcile us to him ultimately for eternity. Guys, if there's one thing we know in this life that every human beings know, there's something wrong with death. There's something wrong with death.
We try to
100%.
avoid it as much as we can, don't we?
I watched a great Netflix thing on that guy who's trying to live and not die, that Brian, whatever his name is, that multimillionaire who's been paying millions of dollars.
Mhm.
It's actually a really good show. He was actually a former Mormon. I actually really liked that show. And I saw a lot of interesting things that I thought were pretty good. All this whole idea of home days and trying to live forever, that's been a big push right now with a lot of Silicon Valley guys and a lot of push for those guys. It's very interesting. But the reality is Christ already prepared a way for that, for all of us. He has.
Yeah.
I'm not in a hurry to go anywhere. I do want to
Mm,
enjoy the time that I do have, but at the same
mm,
time, that it is nice to know that on the other side, there's something better for us in this suffering, and we'll get a new body. So, yeah,
mm.
we're disabled, and we have things that we're not able to do the things we do. But that also gives me hope on a daily basis, knowing that I'm doing kingdom work now, and the things that I'm doing are wrapped up in things that are greater than I, and I want to share that same love and that same feeling with as many people as I can. And, that's where it is. I almost feel guilty when I have those days. Most people have these moments where you start feeling something that feels a little off and you're like, oh man, is this about to happen to me again? I don't really want to go through this. And I really kind of almost feel guilty for worrying at those points or it's grumbling almost, so to speak, because I should just be thankful for what I got in the time that I have here and my family that surrounded me. Doesn't mean that as a human being in our sinful nature that you're not going to have those moments, and that the enemy isn't going to sit there and try to use that against you, and keep you in a place where you can't share the good word with others. And the longer he can keep you down and the longer he can keep you in that place of despair and pull the hope back out and keep you there, that's he's winning, allowing that to happen. I believe, and my life wasn't like this before. I was running really fast and hard on everything I could for many, many years. I lived a different life from 30 on. From before 30 and before, I was definitely running as far away as I could. My parents raised me in the church as well, but I was the typical prodigal son. I went as far away as I could. From that, I was rebellious. The irony is I was the same as you, Shayne. Didn't like any authority, just was that guy. And,
That's the way we're making a good team, guys.
Yeah.
Bunch of
but
badasses.
it makes you a good leader further down the line when you realize that, what were we fighting against? We were fighting against ourselves. I mean, really.
Yeah. That's
Anyway.
the irony of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing, if I could give you just a little hope that I want to share with you, Shayne, is, I was really surprised when I talked to you a little while back and you said that you didn't have really any experience with video and doing the movie, the documentary that you're working on. Man, it's very professional. I feel like God's gifted you in that way more than you even know right now. I do see that being something that's going to not only help a lot of people, it's going to help you. I will be standing behind you on that. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Trent.
100%.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I've said it, Shayne. You definitely are gifted at this, brother. You hit the triggers or the notes that people I think will resonate with. If you get the audience that watches you and checks this out, my goodness, for stroke recoverers all over the world, boy, I think you'd be an amazing voice, brother.
Thanks, Oral.
Seriously.
Thanks, both of you guys.
100%. I should have brought my friend John. He was at this men's group here. So John, another Christian brother, I was trying to get him to come with me today. So Trent, my friend John, who God connected me with here at a men's group from our church here in Rocky, he had 2 strokes, and then he got diagnosed with terminal lymphoma. He's supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
And he's still alive and kicking. And he's cancer-free, and he's healing up. And we've become good buddies here in Rocky. We work out almost every morning together, quite a few mornings together. He's former RCMP, former police officer, and just man, he's been such a huge blessing for me here in Rocky, small town Alberta, and he's been such a huge blessing for me. I really wish I could have got him on this conversation with us. He doesn't like to talk, though. He'll talk your ears off when he gets talking, but he just doesn't like the camera. Or he doesn't like any of this stuff. Like he's very private and very, but man, talk about an amazing story about God's goodness and what God's done. He's blown me away, and he's been a lifeline for me here, brother. Just like you, Shayne, like just meeting you and getting to know you and hearing your story, it fills me up and encourages me in ways I can't express. Getting to meet you, Trent, a few weeks ago, and hearing your story, jumping on your ministry and checking your website and seeing what you guys have been doing, checking some of that stuff out, it fills me up and it blesses me in ways I can't express. And that's, this is a gift of the stroke community that I just, especially Christ followers within the stroke community, that's just been a real blessing to me, guys. A real blessing.
Huge. Yeah. Likewise.
Same thing. Same here. Thanks for the words of kindness. Yeah, it's amazing.
So we're an hour in and just started question 2.
Perfect. Man, this is real right here. And I know somebody listening is sitting in that same place asking, why me? And we didn't try to clean that up today. We just told the truth. But I'll say this, God meets you right there, even in the questions. So we're going to pause right here because next week this conversation shifts. We start talking about surrender, purpose, and what it really looks like to trust him through all this. You don't want to miss part 2. We'll see you next week.
I'll do my best one day at a time on the broken road, on the broken road.